Good morning. For those who are wondering if Facebook is going to be going live, it's taking its time. So don't get mad at me. Blame Facebook for that, not me. In any case, this morning we're going to be talking about something I guess will be a little bit, I would say, upsetting. Okay. Um, the topic itself by name may not seem that way, but I think if you fully understand what foolishness is in the world and what the world considers foolishness, it will start to upset you. Okay. The title Stupid Solidifies Salvation as a question. I don't know that many will understand where I'm coming from, but I think by the time I'm done, you will. We have heard before that wisdom of the world is as foolishness to God, and the ways of God is foolishness to man. So, with that being the case, if the world considers salvation the way it's set up foolishness or stupid, does that solidify salvation considering that Christ considers it wisdom? Might be a little bit convoluted, but it's where my mind goes sometimes, okay? It sometimes thinks in reverse. But the more this topic ruminated within the confines of my dome, the more things came up that led me to believe that the topic is a little deeper than even I had originally thought. Because when I look at what the world today considers either intelligence or wisdom or good, or the deciphering between right and wrong, the more I'm convinced that it's okay to be stupid, at least by the world standards. It's okay to be dumb. It is okay to not make sense to people. It is okay because it's not supposed to make sense from the worldly viewpoint. Salvation is not, when you look at this, salvation is not what the world would consider wise. Why? You're trying to convince me that a creator who was shunned and disobeyed by his own creation, cursed at by his own creation, turned on by his own creation, still decided to save them? That's stupid by the world standards. Why would I waste my time with a group of people who not only turned their back on me, but when I did send somebody to talk to them who was directly from me, was me personified in flesh, they killed him? Why, if knowing that, why would I do that? That's silly. That's just incomprehensible. It is dumb by the world's standards. So, does that solidify salvation? Because what the world considers dumb, idiotic, slow, worthless, God doesn't. In fact, it is one of the most brilliant moves by any mind anywhere ever. It is one of the most brilliant moves ever, but the world wouldn't see it that way. But I think I realized why. And it came to me this morning in listening to a video of all things, not even a believer's video, although it is on a channel that I follow because the channel has a lot of good content for exposing the so-called church. And you guys know the channel very well, Woke Preacher Clips. Shout out to you, brother, Woke Preacher Clips. And I'm going to draw a correlation here to show you that the stupidity thing is not just lack of wisdom. It's not just that. But I dare say it is a actual form of Satanism. Okay. Now I'm going to have you listen to something. It's in its entirety. I've heard some of these sayings before in circles of Satanists. I've heard them said in many of the trans environments. I've heard it spoken about before in environments of these possessions kind of things. So when you'll hear, I'll wait to see how many of you can tell me one or two statements that this person makes. Now they're at a building that they call a church gathering facility. When they're saying what they're going to say, I'm prepping you now because I want you to understand that this person, I think it's a she. It's not a he. I think it's a she that decides it was a he. But when you see that they're in this building that is considered a church, I think it will make a little bit more solidifying my point, but also it'll anger you. I'm just letting you know. I want to make sure I put this out there before I play it, that you guys understand. Okay, good. And mind you, they all speak pretty much the exact same. If you listen to these people that have this viewpoint, they all have the same cadence to their speech. They have the same inflections. They use similar terminology, which is what is leading me to believe that it is indeed an incantation kind of thing. And if you listen to many of the politicians that have this mindset, it's the same speech pattern. Just like, anyway, you'll hear the similarity, okay? Just listen.
We have always been here in every culture, every age, transcendent souls, divine beings beyond the binary, vessels of transformation. Our names are sacred incantations, each syllable earned in blood and tears, each pronoun a battle cry of recognition. To deny them is to deny our divinity. To cast them aside is violence against our very souls. We are the holy freaks, the sacred monsters, the divine misfits who dared to rebuild our bodies into temples of our own design. We are surgically crafted magnificence, endocrine consecrated rebels, natural-born revolutionaries. Every curve, every scar, a testament to our power. Every pronoun a prayer, every transition a testament to the holy truth that gender is an ocean, not a shore. Dear beautiful trans youth, we know how hard some days are, when dysphoria whispers lies, when bathrooms become battlegrounds, when dead names echo in hallways, when families struggle to see your light. But listen, you are not alone in this. We've been fighting these battles since before you took your first breath. We've carved out spaces in the darkness, built families from stardust and hope, created magic from mayhem, and we're not going anywhere. We've got you. Your changing voice is a song, your chosen name is a spell, your pronouns are poetry, your gender is a gift to this world. Whether you're out or stealth, binary or beautifully beyond, femme or mask or neither or both, you are getting it exactly right, just by being yourself. Our existence is not a debate topic. not a political wedge to be tossed aside when convenient. We are stardust made flesh, interdependent threads in this cosmic web, each gender journey unique and sacred, each identity a flame that burns brighter with every hateful speech, every violent threat, every propaganda headline, every call for our extinction. You cannot legislate away starlight. You cannot preach away the ocean, and you cannot silence a supernova. Remember, we are the ones who walked away from lies to live our truths. We are the ones who rebuilt ourselves from stardust and survival. We are the ones whose very breath defies false binaries. This is why they fear us, because we dance in the streets, because we sparkle and strut and celebrate, because we shatter their precious boxes with our fierce and fearless joy, because we prove with every breath that their God is too small, that their truth is too narrow, that their power is nothing compared to our freedom.
Okay. So, I'm going to show you something again, but I want you to really look at something, because I think this is where the symbolism comes in for my proof a little bit. Okay. There is a portion of the video that's there throughout the whole time. Okay. And this is what kind of, besides the words, this is also something I want you to look at. Now, do you see down in the bottom left and in the top right? If you look bottom left and top right, there are two things. One is a candle within a circle, and the top one is a lantern within a circle. Do you see it? Let me know if you can see those things. Okay. If you can see them, please just let me know so I can make sure that you understand that this is their thing in the video. Okay. I'm going somewhere with this that has to do with the topic. Just be patient here. I'm fleshing this out so that we understand that this particular concept is what the world considers wisdom, emotional wisdom to accept everybody properly. Okay, so you see it there. Now I want you to look at this picture. And if you look carefully, this is the same exact idea, a candle within a circle and a lantern type of device within a circle. This, of course, is a demonic and satanic ritual layout. Okay. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is twofold. What the world considers now a deviation from Christianity is man's ability to accept one another. And they call that only the smart people would be like this. Wise people understand that you could never follow a God you can't see. Wise people understand that you have to follow your feelings, follow what you know, follow what you can prove. This is what they say. This is man's wisdom. While we may look at this and know for a fact that this is satanic ritualistic stuff, yes, from a mind that has already accepted Christ, true. But for a mind that is still malleable, this is very, very, very puzzling, because while God has to enlighten the heart, Satan just has to enlighten the flesh. And since we're already fallen, one doesn't necessarily need to be handed over. One's already handed over. While you have to hand your life over to Christ, that would be a little bit of a more difficult step. Not saying impossible for God, but mankind has to be the one to arrive at that decision, whereas the flesh is already handed over to the devil. This is why sin is easy, which is why the things of God seem stupid, slow, unimpressive, because it takes too much work in their mind. So it's considered dumb. Okay. Now, I grew up in a time where if you didn't try something, you branded it, just stupid. I don't want to try it anyway. You remember doing stuff like that where you're like, it's so difficult. It's too stupid for me to want to do it anyway. This is exactly what the devil banks on, is our inability to want to self-examine, see what we are before God, and do it. You end up saying it's too difficult and too stupid. I'm not doing it. So it caused me to go looking a little bit further into some of the statements that this person made. And one of the statements they made was that we've always been here. And the instant I heard that, I knew I had heard similar statements from Satanists before. Maybe not in those exact terms, but I also heard it in multiple movies when it came to aliens and all this kind of stuff, right? So my mind started to just go down that rabbit trail a little bit. And it took me to a very, very, very well-known individual, and that was Anton LaVey. You know who Anton LaVey is. For those of you who don't know who Anton LaVey is, he is known as the founder of Satanism, but he's not really the founder of it. He's just the most famous one. We're not going to get into the whole creation of what Satanism came about and how the history of it. We're just going to harp on Anton LaVey just for a minute, because what you're going to hear from him, he's not going to be speaking. I'm going to read what he says, but what he says, you'll find very similar to what people consider wisdom today. Okay, this is one of his quotes. We're gonna. Satanism encourages its followers to indulge in their natural desires. And if you remember what that guy said, we've always been here. This has always been who we are. It's natural. Now, remember where this person was speaking? In a building that's supposed to be for the church. Make sure you get that. Okay. Only by doing so can you be a completely satisfied person with no frustrations, which can be harmful to yourself and others around you. What would that be considered? Wisdom, right? I don't want to hurt people. So the best way to not hurt people is to indulge in something that I know that eventually, if I bottle it up, it could hurt people. That's today's world, that'd be called wisdom. Therefore, the most simplified description of the satanic belief is indulgence instead of abstinence. What does the world today preach? And they do indeed preach. You do what you got to do for you. I'm going to be harping on the world's wisdom right now. Okay. He also had more statements that he made. Okay. I'm going to bring up another one. To my point, stupidity, the top of the list for satanic sins. Now listen to what they consider stupidity. The cardinal sin of Satanism. It's too bad that stupidity isn't painful. Ignorance is one thing, but our society thrives increasingly on stupidity. It depends on people going along with whatever they are told. The media promotes a cultivated stupidity as a posture that is not only acceptable, but laudable. Satanists must learn to see through the tricks and cannot afford to be stupid. Now, you might think, oh, he's speaking truth. He's right. The media does this and people just do what they say. But did you actually read what he said? Okay, read what he actually said. Ignorance is one thing, but our society thrives increasingly on stupidity. Now, you have to remember when he wrote this, this was not 2022, 23, 24. This was a while ago now. Okay. At that time, when he was writing this, things were nowhere near as devolved as it is now. It was devolved, just not as abased as you see things today. He was speaking from a point of view that the majority of people still spoke about God. They still spoke openly about God. God was still a part of life, actions, thought processes. Okay? He was talking during a time where the world today was not as it is. It was in a wholly different place. So what you're reading here is the exact same thing that I told you, that the world thinks that anything and talking about God is indeed stupidity. And only with the advent of education and intelligence can you overcome that stupidity. One more. Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. Satan represents vital existence. Like he said, remember, vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. What did the individual that spoke talk about? We have always been here. Please, what your existence is what? You remember him saying it? He spoke about these peoples and their existence. He talked about incantations. Your name is an incantation. I hope you understand where this is ending up here. Satan represents undefiled wisdom. Instead of hypocritical self-deceit, to yourself, be true. You are stardust. Your existence is important. Who you are matters. You hear it, right? You hear what they are saying. Now, mind you, it's undefiled wisdom. Okay. Satan represents all of the so-called sins as they all lead to physical, mental, or emotional gratification. So, with that foundation being laid for you, okay, with that being foundationally laid, I want you to read now from God's word. This is in Proverbs 14. Go from the presence of a foolish man when you do not perceive in him the lips of wisdom. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way, but the folly of fools is deceit. Fools mock at sin, but among the upright there is favor. Now, these are diametrically opposed. They do not join, they cannot be one, they do not coexist, they're antagonistic. Know this. These two mindsets cannot abide in the same person for very long. Madness either ensues, or depression, or you end up picking. Usually the person picks the one that's most easy, which is the flesh. And they consider that choice wise because there's less contention, less aggravation, less things to do, less personality to let go of. I'm going to go to another verse because that is all we have is the verses. All we have is his word. 1 Corinthians. Okay. I want people to understand where we're at. Okay. This is where? Chapter 1. All right. We're going to go down. Now, when we're going to read this to you, right, I want you to understand something very importantly. When we have this mindset of understanding what the difference is between wisdom and folly, we will have a better time understanding the world and why we should stay far away from it. 18, for the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise and bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this age? Has God not made foolish the wisdom of this world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world through wisdom did not know God, it pleased God through the foolishness of the message preached to save those who believe. Is the message foolishness? Is that what he's saying? To man, indeed. The message of the good news, the gospel, is indeed stupid to mankind. It is indeed stupid to mankind. And this is why stupid solidifies salvation. You see, we have this idea that smart people follow God. And we have Christian scholars and all this stuff. Not saying that book sense and reading the books and all and knowing the book is bad. I'm saying not on the contrary. But there are many who know the book that don't follow it too. So the wisdom that we're talking about is more than regurgitative ability. It's not just being able to spit back out what I read and remembering where this is and where that is and how that is laid out. It's more than that. It's knowing wisdom itself. It is knowing wisdom. The world does not possess wisdom. The world possesses something that they want you to believe is wisdom, but in reality, it's folly. And what the world will call folly is actually true wisdom. We're going to read one more. One more. This is still in First Corinthians, okay? But we're going to go to this right here. 1 Corinthians 3, okay? 16, do you not know that you are the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? If anyone defiles the temple of God, God will destroy him. The temple of God is holy, which temple you are. Let no one deceive himself. If anyone among you seems to be wise in this age, let him become a fool that he may become wise. You stop and you think, that's dumb. That don't make no sense. Why would I become a fool so that I can become wise? For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God, for it is written, he catches the wise in their own craftiness. And again, the Lord knows that the thoughts of the wise, that they are futile. Therefore, let no one boast in men. So let's analyze this real quick. Let him become a fool that he may become wise. What does that mean? That mean you become a dummy? No. It means that you relinquish the world's idea of wisdom and have become a fool in their eyes so that you can gain true wisdom where wisdom actually resides, which is in Christ. And just by saying that, if you were to take off your God hat for a second, that sounds counterintuitive and therefore dumb. It sounds stupid. And I would 100% agree on the worldly side that sounds dumb. Everything about accepting Christ goes against what the flesh wants. You are nothing. The flesh wants to believe you are everything. You are lost. The flesh wants to believe you are not lost. You live in folly. The world wants you to believe that you're not living in folly. So if you believe the flesh as wisdom, everything about the cross and salvation is stupid, which is why they say that. Because they genuinely believe it, because they hold fast to what is in their mind intelligence, the tangible, not realizing that God created the tangible. Go lo and behold, that's how stupid they really are. The tangible, the seeable, the touchable, the tasteable. That's wisdom. And you can't die to live. That's dumb. You can't have life in death. That's dumb. So, folly, stupidity, dumbness solidifies my salvation. If you of the world really believe that I am dumb for holding this position, then stupid I am. But I'm saved and stupid. By the world standards, I'm stupid, then be stupid. Be stupid in the world's eye so that you can embrace wisdom. He said it. Let him become a fool that he may become wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. He will use the things of the wisdom of this world to confound them. You want to know why it's so impossible for some of the biggest brains like Dawkins and those guys to come to an actual realization of their real stupidity? They're too smart. They're too smart. Now, I've covered these guys before, and I think you guys can go all, it's maybe a couple of years old now. We talked about these particular individuals. And I don't know if you remember them, but I will give you the names of the ones that are considered, they say they are the four horsemen of atheism. Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, and Daniel Dennett. If you're familiar with any of them, you're probably more familiar with Dawkins and Harris, more probably even Hitchens. Very many may not know Daniel Dennett, but all four of them have been at the forefront of making sure that people stay away from Christ. The new one that came out, he's now been passed, as Stephen Fry. He was an actor, you might know him. But a lot of these men, by the world standards, are brilliant minds. They know books inside and out. They have studied extensively. They have multiple master's degrees. Some of them have doctorates. They are intelligent human beings by the world's standards. They put to shame many, 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 many smart people. Some would even go so far as to say that they have the collective mind of any person, past, present, or future, when it comes to intelligence. Aristotle, Socrates, none of them can compare to these minds, because now they have not only Aristotle and Socrates in their wheelhouse, they have new evolved way of thinking, and their minds have just been expanded. But they always get confounded by small, simple explanations about God. Yes, they're all pretty much dead right now, Victoria. Pretty much all of them are dead. Hitchens is dead. Stephen Fry is dead. Dawkins is dead. Sam Harris is still around. So it's just a matter of time before they all go away. But at the same time, here's my point to what I'm getting at here. They are the brain children of education and smarts. Okay. And let's not get it twisted. If we were to ever go, any one of us, and I don't care who you are, any one of us were to go up against them in any debate that had to do with anything secular, historical, we would lose in a heartbeat. These men had information at their fingertips that you would not be able to, you couldn't combat it. I don't care how many circles you could talk into, they would wring you dry in seconds. I'm not doubting that at all. Not doubting that at all. But when I tell you that the intelligence that they possess is inconsequential to the task of God, I'm not lying, because they can't answer the questions. The only thing they can call it is crazy. That's the only thing they can call it. That is the only thing they can call it, is crazy. Okay? The only thing you can call it is crazy. Because you have to set aside what you yourself proclaim yourself to be, which is wise, in order to critically look at Scripture. The whole reason I keep telling people what the book says is that you must die. You have to put to death all the preconceptions and misconceptions you have of God in your own mortal thinking in order to know who he is, because he does not function on man's wisdom. He functioned on his own, and his own will come across as folly from man's logic because man does not want him. The same way you behave when you don't want something and you don't want to go through with it, it's dumb. It's wisdom, but to you it's dumb because you don't want to do it. I'm going to give you an example of how, for all their intelligence, when faced with the dilemma of something of an actual moralic wrong or right, they cannot decipher past their own thinking, because their right and wrong will always be superseded by what they want, which is why it's not true intelligence. It's no different than most preachers today that will take the book and drag from it what they want, and they consider themselves scholars, or they read into the book and consider themselves scholars. It's no different. Okay, I'm going to show you an example now of, people might call this cognitive dissonance. I don't know. I wouldn't say that. I would say this is just plain old stupid. But at the same time, I understand why he says what he's about to say, and I understand why he believes what he believes, because he has allowed what he wants to supersede even his own intellect. His own deductive logic and reasoning of right and wrong gets overridden by what he wants, which is why God will call it folly. Mind you, this is not about the topic necessarily, about what he's going to talk about, because it's a political topic about the laptop of Hunter Biden. But I want you to listen carefully to his reasonings behind what he says. That's all I really want you to get past the political and listen carefully to how he reasons his way to what he says. Remember, this is a man. This is one of the men considered one of the four horsemen of atheism, and a brain. I mean, smart. Books galore. He knows them in and out and can read. Sam Harris.
I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared, right? It's like, there's nothing. First of all, it's Hunter Biden, right? It's not Joe Biden. But even if whatever scope of Joe Biden's corruption is, like if we could just go down that rabbit hole endlessly and understand that he's getting kickbacks from Hunter Biden's deals in Ukraine or wherever else, right? Or China. It is infinitesimal compared to the corruption we know Trump is involved in.
Okay, so I want you to just focus for a minute. Forget the fact that he's mentioning Trump. We're not talking about Trump. I want you to listen carefully to his analogies of what he says is, one, incomparable to another person, but how he reasons past what is shown to what he thinks. At the onset, he said he, Hunter, could have the corpses of children all over his kitchen floor, and it wouldn't matter to him. This is one of the brain children of the world. Now ask me, how could he say something like that? Because his deductive reasoning isn't based on wisdom, it's based on want. Didn't Anton LaVeyan say the same thing? Satanism is about indulgence. It's not really about the reasoning. It's about whether or not you want what you want, and you create your reasoning around what you want. You create your sense of wisdom around what you want, which is why everything is acceptable. Except for, of course, if you decide to follow God, that's not acceptable because that's folly. So for all their intelligence will always fail when it comes to something of substance on the moral spectrum, because it has nothing to do with morality. It has to do with what they want. That's why you can't debate with an atheist properly. You can't debate with somebody who's indulged in every single sin. You cannot debate with them. Their logic does not come from godly wisdom. It comes from what they want, their flesh. And at that time, the pervading factor is the flesh. Consider this. You are a Christian, and you, knowing God, still have to contend with this flesh. This is how pervasive the flesh is and will be with you until the day you die. It is so persistent that even after you've given yourself over to God, it doesn't quit. Now imagine not handing yourself over to God, having no restrictions, having no buffer, no protections over what the flesh can do to influence your way of living, and think about what it'll take you to. Of course, it will look at God's way as folly. Of course, it would look at the cross as stupidity. Of course, it would look at salvation as inadequate and dumb. This is why many will choose reasoning. The same thing we had this discussion with the two gay men on stage and their way of reasoning out scripture when it says nothing along those lines. But because in their mind, what they want supersedes what is said, they will read into it what they want out of it. That is what they would call deductive reasoning and logic by the world standards. And if you just took it at face value, you're not very intelligent, are you? You don't know how to read in between the lines, do you? You don't know how these things work, do you? So yes, being stupid does solidify salvation indeed. Be stupid by the world standards. Be dumb. Be all the things they think you are because you follow God. You have to be an idiot to think God is real. Yes, I'm an idiot. Perfect. And I will be a happy idiot too. Whatever you believe me to be, because I believe in God and salvation the way he lays it out, I am. It is insane, but at the same time, it's understandable why they think the way they think. Let me show you one last quote. And I think this one will help you understand way more about how they think than any other one I can show you. This one is also by Mr. LaVeyan. And I'm showing you Mr. LaVeyan to show you that the one person that is leading the charge, that had led the charge, and I heard that he had second thoughts when he started to die, but hey, leading the charge against thinking that you are nothing before God. I want you to hear what he said and see how similar it is to how Sam Harris thought and how the person that you heard talk thought. Listen, Satanism advocates practicing a modified form of the golden rule. Our interpretation of this rule is do unto others as they do unto you, because if you do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and they in turn treat you badly, it goes against human nature to continue to treat them with consideration. You should do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but if your courtesy is not returned, they should be treated with the wrath they deserve. Now, in the world's mind, that would make sense. Let's just park again. I know it might be difficult for some. For a second, park what you know about true Christianity and tell me if it doesn't make sense. Tell me if vengeance on your end doesn't feel good. You're going to lie to yourself and say it doesn't? Of course it does, because it echoes to the flesh. It will feel good to get payback. It will. It will feel good. Right? It does. So is he wrong on the world standards? No, he's not. He is not wrong at all. If someone you treat right, they don't treat you right back, you should give them back what they did treat you as. That's what Satanism approves of. But what does God say? God says the complete opposite, does he not? Does he not? Does he not say the complete opposite? So if God is saying the complete opposite and the world thinks one of them is intelligence and wisdom, one has to be stupid, right? Right? You would think that, right? So let's go to Romans 12:17. Let's go to Romans 12:17. Repay no one evil for evil. Have regard for good things in the sight of all men. If it is possible, as much as depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Beloved, do not avenge yourself, but rather give place to wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him drink. You know what the Satanists would add after that? If your enemy is hungry, feed him, and if he throws food in your face, throw food back in his face. If he is thirsty, give him a drink, and if he throws a drink in your face, throw it back in his face. For in doing so, you will heap coals of fire on his head. But you can also heap coals of fire on his head now and get it over with. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So what's the whole of it? The whole of it is this. The worldly wisdom that you get from everyone else who does not follow God will make sense. You cannot sugarcoat that. It'll make sense. It makes complete sense. And there is no way around that. If you were honest with yourself, it would make sense. And it does make sense because you have two natures at work, but you've given power to one nature, which is Christ's. It does make sense. But when you've handed yourself over to Christ and you've died to that nature, it no longer makes sense. In fact, it becomes so contrary that it makes absolutely no sense. It becomes abhorrent. It becomes abhorrent. But the intelligent cannot get there. Wisdom cannot find God. Man, wisdom can't find God. You have to forsake man's wisdom in order to find God's wisdom. because God's ways are not our ways. It's higher. His wisdom is not our wisdom. It's higher. It is no different than a foolish man looking at a wise man and calling him stupid because he can't understand what the wise man is saying. No different. You know how you've seen these little videos of women, and sometimes men, but mostly women, you'll see these older heads talking to the younger women and teaching them some really important life valuable stuff, not worldly life valuable, like how to be a wife. And the stupid woman will say, "You just don't understand, Grandma. What you talking about, Grandma? It ain't, that don't work like that today, you know?" They call the advice that she's giving them folly. But is it folly? But the carnal mind cannot perceive. So you cannot expect them to perceive. It is not until you relinquish what the world considers wisdom and accept what God considers wisdom can you understand the error of your ways. But you know the only person that can reveal that to them? It's God. Your job is to introduce the one who can persuade. Your job is to show them the one who can persuade. You can talk to them all day long till the cows come home. But the only one that changes a heart is God. The only one that removes the folly of the world is God. And if they consider what you've done by accepting Christ folly and stupid, so be it. Because he did say that his ways would be considered foolish to the world. So be a fool. Be a fool. Be all that they called you to be. Be all that they say. Be all that they think. In maximum force. But understand one thing. It'll probably be the best decision you'll ever make. It'll be one that you never regret. And by the time your life is ended, you may not have gotten to the bottom of God's well, but you would be happy that you jumped in with no ladder. You are going to be happy that you jumped in with no ladder. You know, there's a song, and again, I know I've told you guys this before, but I don't like the group. But every now and again, there is a word that comes out of it, because sometimes you can find a gem in a junk pile. Look, you can go to garage sales all day long and rummage sales, right? And sometimes you'll find some of the most antique stuff in throwaways. You know, like you go to a garage sale or you go to Goodwill and you come across a lampshade and it's a Tiffany lampshade and you get it for $1. But nobody knows it's a Tiffany lampshade unless you've been involved in what Tiffany looks like. Some people say, it just looks like an old piece of stained glass mess. You know, it's dirty. And you pick it up and you realize, what? This is a Tiffany lampshade. And then you clean it up and you go on eBay and you sell this thing for $5,000. Just money. So sometimes you can find a gem in the stupid places. Bethel is indeed a crazy place to be. But they did a song, and I still love the song because the song is still true. And the song is called In Over My Head. Now, if I don't make it through the song, reading the lyrics, don't blame me. They have important, the words itself, I'm visualizing and I'm seeing it. Okay. So now, some of you, if you have disagreements with how it's portrayed, just let me know. But I want to read it out to you. I've come to this place in my life. I'm full, but I'm not satisfied. This longing to have more of you. And I can feel it. My heart is convinced. I'm thirsty. My soul can't be quenched. You already know this, but still come do whatever you want to. I'm standing knee deep, but I'm out where I've never been. And I feel you coming and I hear your voice on the wind. Would you come tear down the boxes that I've tried to put you in? Let love teach me who you are again. Would you take me back to the place where my heart was only about you and all I wanted was to be with you? Come do whatever you want to do. And further, my heart moves away from the shore. Whatever it looks like, whatever may come, I'm yours. Further and further, my heart moves away from the shore. Whatever it look like, whatever it takes, whatever it looks like, whatever it comes, I'm yours. Then you crash over me. I've lost control, but I'm free. I'm going under. I'm in over my head. And you crash over me, and that's where you want me to be. I'm going under. I'm over my head. Whether I sink, whether I swim, it makes no difference when I'm beautifully in over my head. Now, the reality of it is this. You losing control of your life for God to take control is not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. And everybody wants to stay afloat and be happy in this water. He promised you turmoil. But if you're trusting God, whether you sink or swim, it makes no difference because of where you are. You have very little control. I don't swim. Y'all know that. But I do know the dynamics of swimming. I also understand the dynamics of deep sea diving. There is very little control you have in the deep. Look, I understand hurricanes and I've been through hurricanes, but water is different. Water is different. Water has such power. Water can move a 10-ton boat. A boat that no human can lift can be buoyant on water. And that same water can suck it up and drag it to the bottom. Deep. Deep calls to deep. If you are going to dive into God, be prepared for currents to drag you places you may not think you are willing to go, able to go, can get back from. But the difference is and I go back to, my brain is filled with movies. Finding Nemo. When the turtles came, right? And they were wondering how they were going to get to Australia. And the turtle said, well, we just take the currents. The currents take us there. You just got to know which current to take. And they just go along with they don't fight it. They're just chilling in the current. And the current's taking them through all different directions. But every current has a place to take you to. If you say you trust God, and it may seem stupid, it may seem foolish, it may seem pointless to the world, that's okay. Let them think that. Your concern is not with them. How are you going to wade that deep? It doesn't matter what they think. You're following God. And he's going to take you some places that you think, I can't get out of this one. That's okay. You don't need to get out of it. I'm taking you somewhere. You don't need to know where. You see how Marlon was concerned the whole time? Are you sure this is? Just follow the current, bro. Dude, just follow the current. It'll take you, dude. And when he finally got there, oh, he was right. No, duh. You're talking to a guy who has been following the current his whole life. He's not in control of the current. The current is in control of him and is taking him where it needs to go. God is in control. Let him take you where he wants to take you. Your intelligence and all that stuff has to be parked to the side. And it may seem stupid to humans. It may seem stupid to the world, and that's okay. Your stupidity will solidify your salvation. And it's okay. It is fine. It is okay to relinquish control. Life does not have to go smooth. And that's not what he promised you. Life does not have to go happy, hunky-dory. That's not what he promised you. He promised you peace, though. You know where the peace comes from? Trust. Look, my 9-year-old trusts me. And I could tell him, all right, get your shoes on. We're going out. Oh, where we're going? You don't need to know. We're just going. Okay. Okay. I'm sure in his mind he would love to know where. But you know what he's not concerned about? Dad's going to kill me. Dad's going to take me somewhere scary. He's not concerned about that. Dad said to put my shoes on. Oh, we're going somewhere? Bet. The history between him and I is that if I go somewhere, it's usually either fun for him or it's somewhere that I can't be left at the house alone. He has to go. He's not concerned about the where, but he's happy with the who. He is content because he's with me. If mom says, go get your shoes, he's content. He's with mom. He knows that he's safe, regardless of where he goes. He doesn't have to know. And he may not even be happy about it, but he also understands the dynamic of control too. Heck, I'll tell him we're going to the dentist. He doesn't want to go to the dentist, but he also knows that, hey, it's for my good and mom has to take me. So she's taking me. He's going. So my question is, have you surrendered fully to where he's going to take you? Not where you want to go, where he's taking you. Be foolish enough to follow. Be foolish enough to follow. And I mean foolish to the world standards. But it is wise to follow him. It is wise. It is straight up wisdom to follow him. The deciphering is on you. The choice is on you. That decision has to be made by you, not by me, not by anybody else, not by your pastor, not by your deacon, not by anybody else, by you. So, let stupidity by the world standard solidify your salvation. And I don't mean solidified by making it, and now I'm saved. Solidify your choice to be saved. You don't have to. This is not a have to or else. I mean, there is an or else, but you don't have to. These are your choices. He left it up to you. Choose life. But if not, okay. Every choice has a consequence. Every choice has a reward. Every choice has a path. My advice, choose wisely. That's all. Choose wisely. Like I say at the end of all my things, choose wisdom. Find it. It's calling for you. Every hardship that you meet, that you find an impossible way of getting around it, it's him saying, are you going to let it go yet? Every obstacle, are you going to let it go yet? Every discontented segment of life, are you going to let it go yet? That's him asking you the question over and or are you going to let go yet? All the confusion, are you ready yet? That's him talking to you. That's him. Every time you run into these places where you're like, oh, why? That's him. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. He's not going to kick the door in, but he's going to keep knocking. You have the choice. It stands before you. You decide. Scrolling at the bottom, your options to do whatever you need to do. Talk to God for sure about it. And yeah. Didn't get through with the doctors yesterday. I'm going to try again today. So we'll see if we can get a hold of them and find out what's going on. With mom, that is. So keep that in prayer too. She says she's doing better today too. She's not numb in the feet anymore, at least not as much. So that's a good sign. So I think we're still waiting to find out whether or not it is really stage 3 kidney failure or not. But I'm not too sure about it. But then again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. Some of the symptoms seem to suggest it. So there's a whole lot of things battling going on right now, not just the eye, but that too. So my brother's knee is doing better. But his emotional state is kind of in upheaval. He goes through these phases where he's very difficult to deal with, especially with mom. It's always the hand that feeds you. You try to bite. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, he's very cantankerous these last few months. It's really stressing on her, very stressing on her. He does not like to listen, and he's always up and in her room and trying to keep her up and always arguing and special needs kind of stuff. So it's kind of difficult for her, but yeah. So just pray for peace. That's it. That's pretty much what she needs right now, is some peace. In any case, tomorrow, remember, not live tomorrow. There will be a premiere tomorrow of that interview with me and my buddy. It'll be recorded today and I'll drop it tomorrow. So yeah. So let's look for that. And then we'll be back on Friday. Someone mentioned the Bethel thing, and I think I had tackled that before, but it's been years, so I might revamp it, might go back over it again. And y'all can see what I mean by that. Yeah. So again, speak to the author, see what he says. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out. It'll get we've been way behind on the algorithm, and I've noticed that it's dropped off, that people aren't getting the notifications or getting the viewing that's not being seen. And I do want people to hear. It's not that I'm not trying to be seen, but again, I know God's behind it. But I will make the request anyway for you to go ahead and do your part if you can. Just hit that like button and share it as much as you can. Try and beat the suppression factor that's out there, if you don't mind. It's my only request. Just make sure you just at least hit that like button on your way out. There are 106 of you in here. Even if it's the dislike button, hit that too. I ain't got no problem. Just hit one of them. Interaction with it is, if you want it to not be seen, hit the down like button. And if you want it to be seen, hit the up like button. So see, it works out for everybody. It'll give YouTube at least an honest representation of what they want to be seen and not seen. Okay, so that's all. In either case, we'll be back on Friday. And we'll hopefully interact with you guys. I might be live watching at least the redo of the interview with you, so I might be in the chat. You never know. But definitely back on Friday, and we'll see you guys on Savage Patriots today at 6:30. Looking at the implosion of the left. They're imploding big time. So we'll catch you then. Until then, wisdom calls to you from the streets. So please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die, rely on yourself in no way.